In this video, we're going to create a site from our Flowbite e-commerce template, and then we're going to set it up via CLI so that you can edit the styling via Tailwind and generally make changes and work on the site. So all you need to do is come to the marketplace in Siteglide, look for the e-commerce template under the template category, click on that and then install it or create a new site from the template. Once you've done that, here's a site I made earlier. You will have a site in your portal, and all you need to do is click sign up for admin access, and then that will add you as a user on the site. Once you've done that, you'll get the CLI command down here. Now, to use our CLI, you can follow our docs to get set up if you haven't already. It's pretty simple. We'll do a separate video on this, but I'll run through it very quickly as well. So from our docs here, we have a section called Steps to Install Siteglide CLI. First thing you need to do, there are some prerequisites. You do need to make sure that you have some sort of code editor. We recommend VS Code. So here I've got Visual Studio Code installed. It's a Microsoft product. Once you have that installed, you just need to create a folder locally and open that folder. So you can either drag that if you're on a Mac, or you can just click open and go to it. I'm just going to show you here by created a folder in my list of sites and I've just dragged that in there. So once you've set up your folder, what you then need to do is go and get that command. Well, actually, first you check whether you've got Siteglide CLI already set up. So we're going to grab that command here, go back to Visual Studio. Up in the top on a Mac, you've got New Terminal. On Windows, there's a New Terminal button as well. And just type in Siteglide CLI. So that's going to tell me that I'm already on 1.9.7. At the moment, that's the latest. But yeah, just check whether you've got it installed. If you're not sure, or if you want to, you can always install it again. So you can do that here by doing npmi and then installing the CLI globally. So you can follow these steps here. We'll do a separate video on installing CLI, but you should find that that's relatively simple. And once you've got that set up, it's just a one-off process. The process that you would do each time would be setting up an individual site. So once you've created a new site, just like we have, you'd go to this article, which is how to set CLI up for a specific site. So to do that, you need to create the project folder on your machine. We've just done that, and then we've opened that in Visual Studio. So you'll see here from Windows, it's File, Open Folder. And then from there, you need to open Terminal. So again, use the Terminal view, click New Terminal. Once you've done that, you would go and get your command from Siteglide. So it's saying here, step 5, you need to make sure you're a user on the site. In step 4, that's what we did when we clicked sign up for admin access. Step 5 is to go and get that command, and then we would run that command locally. So let's just go back to admin, click copy command, back to Visual Studio, come down into here, into Terminal, and you'll see here it's adding those details, and it's asking for a password. So I'll just go and get the password. Put the password in, it's asking for an access token, and you can see now when it goes green, that means we've successfully set it up, and we've added that site. So we're now set up in this folder to connect to that site, and you do that every time per site. You only do it once per site. What we then want to do is pull everything down off the server. So now we're going to pull everything down off the server. To do that, we would go back to our docs. We've run that command, so then step 7 is to do an initial pull of the site to pull down the existing code base. So grab that command, back to VS Code, run it. It says, are you sure? And that's capital Y to say yes. So we're going to do that. It's going to pull down all of the files, and that's got the files here. So you're seeing everything's appearing now on the left-hand side, and everything's in that folder, in those folders. So we're just going to get set up to install Tailwind to work with our Flowbite website via VS Code and our CLI. So what we need to do is open the Marketplace Builder folder, then Assets, and then Modules, Module 86 and source. Within the source folder, there's this open me to set up Tailwind for the first time folder. We've also got Tailwind config.js and Tailwind CSS. So if you open this, there's another folder asking you to copy files into the root project folder. So you literally just grab these two JSON files and put them onto the root. So just drag them to the bottom. That puts them there, and then in the second folder you'll see that there's just a copy of these config and CSS files for Tailwind. Now this is done so that you can reinstall the module, let's say, or do updates and it not overwrite your files. So these are your files here. You can copy these new versions if you want to across, but you wouldn't actually need to do that if they're exactly the same, which they are when you first get set up. So they're kind of there for the future. You don't need to do anything at this stage because you've already got the files. And so once they're there, you should then be able to split your terminal window. So you keep syncing with that one, and then if you click another one over here, you can do npm I. That is going to make sure that all the necessary extensions and everything are set up. And then there's one more that you need to do, which is npm run Tailwind. So there we go, we've set up Tailwind locally on this site. So you should now be able to open up the Tailwind config file, and this is where you can make changes to global stylings, for example, and this is where most of sort of Tailwind runs, whereas the configuration file. So what we're going to do first is play around with some colors, just as an example to show how easy that is. So if we go back to our site, we can go admin, go into the site, and then we can just view the front end. So because this is a template, it's running off our Flowbite setup, but it's got some pages and everything pre-installed to make the template e-commerce and have all the functionality that we set up for this particular template. So you'll see that the standard default colors, action colors, are blue. There's different shades of blue depending on where you are and depending on what you're doing, different types of buttons. If you go to blog, for example, there's some lighter blues. So they're part of a palette called primary in Tailwind. We've got this great little tool called uicolors.app. Really recommend using this, where you can basically create your own color palette for Tailwind. So if let's go with bright green color, that's made a palette for us, and we can just click export. It's screaming green apparently, and we can copy all of those colors. So Tailwind works in sort of it's got that range from 50 to 950, and then just standard hex codes for each. So if we then go back to Visual Studio, we should be able to replace those primary colors with those new ones. And then the second you click save, so Command S, Control S, you'll see down here in your sync window, terminal window, that syncs those files. If we now go back to our site and we refresh, everything's now gone green. If we go to the home page, yeah, so all across the site, that's a site-wide change. And again, we can do all sorts of changes in global styles in the config file. So we could change things like fonts. So here we could just do Times New Roman, copy that and put it in the Sans folder as well, Sans bit as well, and then save. Again, that's going to sync. If we update, we've updated our fonts. Obviously that's just a boring font, but you could go to Google Fonts, for example, and very easily do that. Let's just have a quick look. So Google Fonts, here we go. So we'll go with that's new. So you go get font, get embed code, and then all you really need to do is put the files in the head of your HTML. So if you come back to the site, go to Site Manager, go into your template. Obviously there's loads of different ways you can do this and loads of different ways of doing fonts, but we'll just put this in at the closing head. Click Save, and then all we should need to do is reference Bevis New. So if we copy that, put that back in Visual Studio, and then save, be able to refresh that page. we've now got the Bevis new font loading absolutely everywhere, or it's everywhere you define how your fonts are set up. So we've done colours and fonts. You can then do all sorts of changes following Tailwind. So Flowbite runs off Tailwind. You can stick to some of the Flowbite sort of components and stylings, but everything really does just run off Tailwind. So you're totally free to use standard Tailwind docs and classes and those kind of things. Everything runs on utility classes. So typically there'll just be lots and lots of classes in a page. If we just go off to, let's go to the home page quickly. Go into the code tab. You'll see here there's lots and lots of utility classes. This can be very off-putting at the beginning, especially coming from something like Bootstrap, but it's actually very, very simple, and it makes it a lot easier to not have to go away and hunt down a rogue class that is controlling everything. You can actually control it right here. So you can obviously manage these, like remove and add, but you can also group classes together. So if you don't want to keep writing this everywhere, let's say you had a card style that you wanted to create, there's lots of ways we can do things. So Tailwind has a feature called apply. So if you do @apply, so you can create a class, and then you do @apply, and you can grab loads of standard utility classes from Tailwind and put them together into your class. So rather than writing that out every time, you just do select search as your class, select to search. So we'll quickly just do that just to test it. So another one to mention is layer. So you can just do @layer and then write your own classes in here as well. And this one's using apply within there. So let's just go off to Tailwind, so VS Code, sorry. We're going to go into the tailwind.css file, and then just under here we can do @layer, and then we can create our own class called card2, let's say, just to be safe. And in here we're going to do background color. And you probably could be clever and start putting variables in here, but just for now, we'll just pick a color that's really obvious. So we'll do aqua. And font weight 900. So that's us picking our own CSS classes. Obviously, what you could also do is do in here @apply and do a known utility class from Tailwind. So just going back to their docs, let's do text to Excel. And let's save that. So again, it's syncing. Card2 is the variable, so nothing will have changed at the front end. But if on, let's say on we were back on the home page, weren't we? So in the home page, let's go and look for payment tools for software companies. That's here. If we apply the class card2, and click save, it may or may not have an effect depending on how the cascading styles are working, but there we go. It's put the background on there. It's not made any changes by the looks of it to the font because they were probably already on there. So that gives you an idea of how we can easily customize Tailwind and Flowbite via the CLI.